I'd like to call to order the September 12th meeting of the Bay County Board of Commissioners. After the roll call, after the invocation, we'll take a moment of silence to remember all the victims of 9/11. Even though it was celebrated yesterday, we're going to stand in remembrance today. Please take the roll, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Durancheck.
Here.
Krieger.
Yes.
Begic.
Here.
Coonan.
Here.
Ryder.
Here.
Lutz.
Here.
Herrick.
Here.
All members present.
Please stand for the invocation.
Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, we come before you this afternoon asking that you will bless this session of the County Commission. Lord, we ask that you will give to its members the courage of their own conviction, that they might work for the common good of all, with the strength of confidence placed in them by election to office. May your divine providence guide our county and bring dignity, prosperity, respect, and order to every citizen. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda would be the minutes of 8/8/17, 8/15/17, and 9/5/17.
Motion to approve.
Support.
The motion support, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, citizen input. If anybody would like the podium and to come and bring whatever you have before the Bay County Board of Commissioners, we'd be glad to hear from you. Anyone? No one? Is it Donna Sullivan? Is she here? Would you like to speak at this time?
Good afternoon, everyone. Where is he? I saw him. There you are. I come on behalf of Gethsemane Missionary Baptist Church. We're located on 2nd and Johnson Street. I am the youth director, and we had a youth program this summer. And we also had Vacation Bible School. We had an open forum where we invited some of our community leaders to come in and share with us what was going on in the community and how we can develop a relationship to give back. And County Executive Jim Barsha came. So we wanted to present him with a letter as well as a certificate. Do I have time to read?
Yes.
Okay. It says, we, the Bay City community of Gethsemane Missionary Baptist Church, 1200 North Johnson Street, Bay City, Michigan, 48708, would like to formally thank you again for coming to us to share your gift of knowledge, wisdom, and concerns with the community of Bay City as Bay County Executive on Monday, August 21st, 2017. Your presentation was very educational as well as worthwhile. It was certainly a blessed day to renew a working fellowship. We hope to continue this relationship in the coming future. We also want to know that you are truly, truly appreciated. Again, thank you. And it's signed by myself and our pastor, who's Edward Jones, who could not be here today. And we also have a certificate for you.
Step right through the gate there. You can present it to Mr. Barsha.
Thank you very much. I so appreciate the opportunity to address your congregation and to see you and the pastor and commend you on the great work you're doing in the community.
Thank you.
Look forward to a long, great working relationship with you. Thank
Thanks
you very
again.
much.
Folks would just come over here and take a picture here for us. Website.
We need a photo.
Oh,
This was a surprise. I didn't notice this happening.
and for those of you who do not know it, Jim worked closely with my mother, Idella White. So when we do a relationship, I don't smile often.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the, the Bay County Board of Commissioners? Seeing none, we'll move on to petitions and communications. Number 1, technology improvements at the Bay County Court System. And I see folks coming up to the podium. Mr. Mead and Judge Clyda.
Good afternoon. Well, we wanted to just come over and give you an update on some things that we're doing, some programs you already know about, but to kind of give you some results from some of those programs, and then to let you know where we're headed with some new projects in the future. So I'm going to let Kim start out, and then I'll just chime in where I need to.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to give a little update over the past 15 years. The court back in 2001 participated in a court improvement plan that the state of Michigan had. And during that time, that plan was, I think, adopted in October of that year. They identified several major projects. One was to merge the receivables between the court systems, circuit, district, and probate. Also to merge the jury process into one, because back then, each court had their own jury. They did mailings themselves, and so it was to move it into one system to save money and time. Prospective juries don't understand whether they're coming for a probate case or a circuit court case, so to them it's seamless. Also, just to kind of restructure the administration, they back then had 3 court administrators, and then to work towards becoming a concurrent jurisdiction court. And you can see on the slide, we've done these things over the past handful of years, 2003 through 14 or 15. We worked with JMS, which is the software provider for district court. Craig Alston, Judge Alston, was very computer literate, and that was a project he took on. They worked with merging back then circuit and district records, and that's been ongoing since I think 2003 when they've done that. And you'll see later on, one of our projects is to bring probate into that one. They've also worked with us to do lien entries. So when we actually process a case in the district court system, rather than also having to log into lien and then add the information if that's a process, or if we're calling back a warrant to remove it, the system is automated. So as they put into JMS that they're adding a warrant or a court case, it's automatically updated or retrieved, which saves an enormous amount of time. In the process, we had to start also getting with the newer payment plans that people do, or technology, which are credit and debit cards, which we fully use for fines, fees, and restitution. We do not for court cost at this point yet. We also created, over the years, an online docket lookup, so anyone can actually go online to baycountycourts.com and look at a judge's schedule. We also, I know one of the judges in particular looks at it before they come to work to see what their day is going to be like. We also then expanded it and created what's called the court uses a process called a register of actions, where it's just a log of everything that's happened. That is also available on cases, I think up to 75 days of it being active. We don't have enough room on the server to store the entire year's worth of information, but they can do the latest 75 days. And of course, the jury functions that I already talked about. Then in 2011, with your blessing, the commission authorized us to start working on expanding and using electronic ticketing for tickets. So working with the Sheriff's Department and then eventually the police and other law enforcement agencies, we now have a fully automated electronic ticketing system. So if a person gets stopped, the law enforcement officer can swipe their driver's license. It goes out, propagates the information from the Secretary of State. It's their eye color, height, name, address, and all that information comes in. The officer selects what the ticket is they're issuing, and they print the ticket in the card to them, give them a paper copy of it. We then, the next morning, electronically receive all of those tickets directly into our system. And we were the first one to use JMS, our software provider, where we work with them to write it so it's absolutely seamless. All we do is pick a menu option and the tickets come in. If you get the ticket and drive right to the office, we can go out and hand pull that one ticket. We wouldn't have to say, you have to come back tomorrow. So it works, it's a fantastic system. We also started doing in 2013, we created electronic warrants for the judges who are on call. So in the middle of the night, they have an iPad, they can actually receive this warrant, drop their signature in and send it back. So that happened back in 2013. Judge Clyde is going to talk more about this Court Innovations project, so I'm going to leave that for her. That was in 2015. And we also then started accepting online payments during that process.
Court Innovations, you may remember, I think I've come back at least once, maybe twice, to talk to you about Court Innovations. And we were the second court in the state to get into the pilot project for that. We turned out to be the biggest user of the product that came through Court Innovations, and we're very proud of that. And we are the standard for a lot of the courts. They're contacting Kim, and other courts have contacted me to find out how are we doing it, what's the results, so we've been very proud of that. But a person can go online for certain civil infractions. They can go online, they can contest the ticket, they can request a pretrial, they can accept an offer, they can resolve it right there, and then they can pay it right there. So they can do all of that online. And as you all know, young people in this age, everything is with this. So we see eventually we're going to probably end up with an app for it so that they can use that. But it is being used, and I have to say that I owe a great deal of gratitude to the prosecutor, both the former and the current prosecutor, and all the law enforcement agencies, because without them and Magistrate Donor and Beeman coming on board with this project, we would not have done as well as we have. So this has been a very, very cooperative effort in this county, and it's really been fantastic for us to work through it. And I've had to present at a number of conferences now because people look at our program, they see what we've done with it, and then they want to hear about it. So we're pretty proud of that. We're going to show you some slides now. Oh, the new FOC module, they've come out with a new module that they're trying out in up north, isn't it?
I think it's Ottawa County.
Okay, Ottawa County is using some new module to assist with collections in the front of the court. So they're going to be presenting to us on that in the very near future. We hope to add that too. So we're going to show you a few slides just so you have an idea of what people see when they go online here. And so and I'm not going to read you all this, we're going to kind of buzz through them, but I just wanted you to be able to see what it looks like when a person goes in there. So here, they've already typed in their information, and it comes up that a result was found. It says what the ticket was for, and then they'll go to the next slide, and they can request a review of it, which means that first a prosecutor has to look at it and see if an offer can be made. And then if an offer is made, then that comes back. So they first request the review, and then it gets sent off to a prosecutor to then make an offer. And then once that is done, it will come back and tell them that we've got your information, it's being reviewed, we'll get back with you. So they're being communicated with so that they're not sitting there wondering what's happening here. It's all done very, very quickly. And then after that, it will tell them some of the benefits of the online case review, and they can do it online, they can resolve it all at one time, they don't have to take off time from work to come in for a pretrial, and sometimes they might have to come in more than once, so they save all of that. So the next one again tells them that it's in progress, and usually at this stage it's now gone to the magistrate. Either the magistrate, or I'm the backup for the magistrates. The magistrates are actually taking care of most of this, largely due to my docket, but they'll go in and we have parameters that have been set from conversations with the prosecutor's office. If law enforcement needs to get involved, the prosecutors are talking to them, but the prosecutor can pull up from their computer, they can pull up all their criminal history and their driving record. That all comes into them. It's also available to the magistrates, so that everybody making a decision on this has access to all of that information. So then it will go to the accept or reject. Now they can look at what has been offered. For example, this one, they might be offered an impede traffic, which is 0 points, $120 fine, and then they agree to pay within 10 days. They also have an opportunity, there's a box on there, that if there's something significant about this, the example that's used here is I was in a hurry, I didn't realize I was going that fast, and if they were cooperative and didn't cause any problems with law enforcement, then generally they'll get an offer, depending of course on their criminal history or driving record. So once that is done, then it goes to the success page. This is the big news for all of you. We have collected $204,137 total dollars from our online review system, just from this particular program alone. 2,358 cases have been reviewed. 84% of the cases reviewed were offered a reduced citation. So only 16% were not offered a reduced citation. 3.3% of case default rate. All that means is that only 3.3% of the people using this have to be reminded to pay their fine. So we're actually doing pretty, I think really, really well. This is an interesting statistic that I thought anyway. How are people hearing about it? They're hearing about it mainly through law enforcement. So our law enforcement's been working really well. They just draw it to the attention of the individual. You may be able to resolve this online, and at the bottom of the ticket, there's that language on there too. So the website is there and they know how to get to it and perhaps see if their ticket can be resolved. And one of our areas that we want to improve is the turnaround time. Right now, we are at a 7.9 days turnaround time. Now, the hard thing about that statistic is just that it's during the summer, it's vacation time, people are gone. We're working with a new prosecutor and she's open to trying to get some backup because one of the prosecutors that did this for us just has a different job assignment, so they have to get somebody else to assist on it. Then this just tells you by month when the total cases that were open just for this program. So the next slide gives you some positive feedback. You've got it in your materials. I won't read them to you, but just one. It was extremely convenient and quick. I'm very impressed. You saved me time and drive gas costs. Thank you for this offer. So all in all, this program has been really, I think, done extraordinarily well. And I hope you're happy with the results. Kim, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Judge. One of the other things that happened from the state, Polycom, which is a television and a video audio centered unit, they had 18 courts they were looking for several years ago, and we offered to be one of those 18. So we mounted it on a cart so we could move it from room to room. The state wanted to mount it in one courtroom, and I said, you can't do that to us. So they let me actually buy a nice sturdy cart. After that took off, the state learned that it was easier to not have to drive people to and from prisons for hearings that might only be a 10 or 15 minute hearing. So the state eventually, they have all the prisons online. They then went back and they've installed this equipment permanently in every one of our courtrooms. So we have 7 units now, plus the one that we got originally, so we have 8. Many county jails are attached to it, so if we have an inmate that we need to have a hearing with that's in Gladwin County or Kent County, we can do it or from their jail right to our courtroom. We've also used it for a physician at U of M Medical Center in Ann Arbor that wanted to testify in a case, and that saved them from driving up here. We can use Crime Lab. Anybody can actually use it. We've even helped an individual that's a Bay County resident that had a court case in, I think it was Montana. He owned property out there, and he was able to do some of the hearings via our Polycom system, so he didn't have to drive to Montana for these hearings. So there's many uses for that, and it's been great for us. The other way. One of the newest areas, and I know you're well aware of this, was ImageSoft, which you funded for the law enforcement court system. Our goal is that it would be court-wide, and I think you're going to expand it and use it county-wide, but we're looking for sure be court-wide. The front of the court is currently live and using it. That started last year in 2016, so they've been able to not create paper documents as much, and they keep copies of things that are filed with the court, so they still have to file originals with us right now, but eventually that will go away as well. Probate has several modules live. District Court's in development, and we're probably going to start testing next month. One of the things we're doing in District Court is taking advantage of the fact that we're electronically capturing the document. But we also want to create this action in court, which is what happens. Right now, the recorder is writing on the document, probation, how many months, how many jail days, what the court cost fines are as the judge is assessing these live in the courtroom. We want to get away from them having to write that, and then we have to scan that document in, that they'll actually type that into the system as it's happening. This electronic image will be created, passed to the judge on the bench, and they will drop their signature in. That's where we're headed with that. Kim, you have a question, I see.
Yes, sir. Kim, when you talked about electronic documentation, how long has that been going on?
Which documentation?
Electronic.
In front of the court, they went live last year in 2016.
Now, is that your permanent copy now? Do you still have saved paper?
Not for us in the court yet until we get automated.
To what?
Till we get automated.
Well, it's
Yeah.
somebody's permanent copy.
Yes, yes,
Okay, that's
yes.
good, because down the road, that saves on all the paper being
Absolutely.
stored and.
Yes, and now we do that with traffic tickets. We don't print traffic tickets. The person gets a printed copy from the officer, but to us, we just look at it online, and that can be a judge or a magistrate or anybody. If we need to print one, we can, but that's rare. We even do things like we used to, if you had a ticket for non-proof of insurance, they bring in their proof of insurance, we'd Xerox it and attach it to the paper ticket. No longer, we just scan that into the system. So we've stopped doing many of those functions. We're getting more and more electronic. District's going a long way with Cherryland they use, but this will roll over to ImageSoft. So yes, absolutely. But this process that we're kind of going slower on with district court is because we want to take advantage of the innovation there to really automate that process, which will save us a lot in the long run. And as Judge mentioned earlier, several counties, IOSCO contacted me a few months back. They now have done, because they use JMS as well, they've done the same thing where they've merged their circuit and district collections. Several have called and talked about e-ticketing because Shirley Beeman, the magistrate, and I in district court went to, I think, 5 or 6 different courts looking at 2 different vendors back then. And we learned a tremendous amount from that. But we were the first one that JMS worked with iTech, so we got to help write that software package, and that's why we like it, because it does exactly what we want it to do. I gotta go the other way. Future plans. My file, which I know you've heard about, is the ability for attorneys or improper clients to file electronically. The state has decided, and they chose ImageSoft as their vendor, which is a win-win for us. That people will actually file the court case on a web portal that the state hosts. They will then transfer those records to us electronically. And I think Judge, you were at a conference recently, and what did they tell you?
They intend to have it rolled out all across the state by 2021. It is a huge undertaking. So, but those of us that are already kind of ahead of the game technologically, they'll be looking at us earlier in the process. So we will probably not be on the tail end of that 2021, we'll be on this side of it. But we don't know when. The state court scale will contact us and let us know, and they'll give us a timeline, because there's certain things that we're going to have to do to prepare for that. But it's looking like our court was one of the examples that they used and said that we will probably be more towards the front end of that, because we've got so much of what needs to be the base in place. So that's why we'll keep moving forward and getting, district and then circuit court will be behind that, and get us all going with ImageSoft, because once that's done, then we'll be a good portion of the way there to allow for the electronic filing. So that's going to be coming down the pike fairly quickly.
And then we want to now roll probate into that same circuit and district collection point, which will be district court, but we're waiting till we finish the district court ImageSoft, or at least a bulk of it, because a lot of that work will fall on Shirley Beeman in that office. So that won't come after that. And then looking even further as what we do, the way our building is designed, if you think about going to a physician, for example, and they assess a cost to you, as you leave, you stop and talk to a clerk or an agent of theirs, and what do they ask you for? Payment, right? We don't have that luxury in our courts. You just leave the courtroom, and then you probably stroll right out the front door. So one of the things we'd like to do is take technology and actually have clerks in the lobby, knowing that Judge Clyde is doing sentencings, today from 10 to 11, we can be out there, and as they come out of the courtroom, she would say to them, you need to stop and talk to my clerk as you exit. We can start to maybe try and get a payment that day, get a payment plan that day. Many times they have grandma, grandpa, mom, dad with them. They may pull out their credit card and we'd be happy to take their funds. But we can then at least get other information like driver's license, addresses, where they work, and we can start doing more garnishments than we do today. So it'll all be part of increasing our collection rate within the court system. We can have the option to start doing electronic tax garnishments now. That's another one we want to work with, and that's with the prosecutor. And then I just put the last one on there. In the state courts spent this several years, and I'm sure many thousands or millions of dollars, creating a MyCourt replacement for the old JIS platform, which we use in circuit and district, and they ended up ditching it last year or early this year. So I'm not sure where they're headed with that, but that will influence us down the road as to what we will use for those platforms. And then I just wondered if there was any questions.
I'd like to know, like you said, you collected $200,000. That's since January?
Yeah.
Or, yes?
Well, since the beginning of the
Okay.
program of Court Innovations.
So is there any comparison as to what you had, how that would have compared to before you had this program?
I know that our credit card collections, Tom, have gone up significantly, and a chunk of that is due to this being able to do it online.
Right.
Significantly, they've gone up. I think last year it was like 170,000 more, but some of that was from Court Innovations, and some of it was just that they got the ticket and went online and paid it. I don't know the difference between the two, but both of those things have allowed us to collect that money sooner.
It's nice to see that, we're actually leading the way in this. I'm sure, like you said, you're getting a lot of people coming from other counties trying to find out what's going on in Bay County, and I think through the work of this commission, and the judicial, like all the people and that work for the county, there's things like this that make it makes it work, and we're always looking to do things better, and like I said, being a leader, I think in this is really significant, I know that, like, I watched all those programs where they used to have to go to the judge's house in the middle of the night and knock on the door and get a warrant. It's nice that guy can pick up his iPad now and just go, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you just have to make sure you really wake up, because the iPad things are real small on there. But that has been helpful too, because it doesn't, it allows us, for example, if I have to run an errand and I'm on call, I take my iPad with me. And I can actually, our jurisdiction is the entire state of Michigan to sign those warrants. So that has made that a whole lot easier than the old ribbon fax machines that sometimes at 3 o'clock in the morning when that ribbon jams on you, and now the next thing you know, you've got to have the officer either come to your house or you got to get out of your jammies and go down to the station. But so it makes it a lot easier for that. Mm-hmm. But we have a conference that's going to be here on October 19th. It's or no, is that the April one? We've got a conference coming here. It's going to be it's one of our Supreme Court conferences. And when they come, I've been asked to make the courthouse available at different times. So we will be having judges from all across the state that will be wandering around the courthouse and asking questions about our systems and things, which is really quite an honor for them to ask us to do that. The conference that I just went to happened to be in Holland, and I took it on myself afterwards to go look at their brand new courthouse, which is all state-of-the-art, computers in the courtrooms and all of that, which is probably where we're headed at some point. But it's very nice. That I just did on my own, but it's nice when these judges are all being told ahead of time, you'll be able to go over to the Bay County Courthouse and check things out. So it's really nice.
Move to receive.
Well, Commissioner Durancheck, sorry.
Just a question, the 3.3% default rate, these are the people that don't pay after a certain period of time, the software kicks them out for a warrant or something?
Oh, yes, that's
Okay.
we've developed two other things. One is they can go online, if they've got a failure to pay notice that they got in the mail, they can go online and they can resolve that. They can reset their payment plan, they can pay it in full, they can set a court date. Additionally, we do it for failures to appear on misdemeanor or civil infractions only. If they don't show up and they get a notice that a bench warrant's going to issue, they can go online and get a new date, but the bench warrant doesn't release till they actually come in. So, but yeah, those are two additional programs that we're developing from Court Innovations as well. Last thing I want to tell you is, again, good news. You know, we have a number of treatment courts here in Bay County. Juvenile drug court, family drug court, my sobriety court, adult drug court,
Swift and Sure.
and Swift and Sure programs. So those 5 courts were all, the grants were all sent out, we've been all waiting to hear, and we've all received our grant money back. Over $500,000 we're getting to operate our 5 treatment courts, so. That, just want to kind of let you know when we come and ask you to sign those things and so that we can submit the grants, that's the result.
Yep.
Yeah, as another comment, I went to Judge Gill's graduation thing. That's pretty, how, you know, people that do actually graduate from that, how many people are in line and how the family support and everything else. I think it's a great program.
Oh, it's great. I've got an 87% graduation rate, which means 87% of my people do not reoffend. They graduate and do not have not reoffended. Yeah.
Just go on. Just go on.
Have you considered having a mental health court?
That and a veterans court has always kind of been out there, but honestly, I don't know where we would put it on the docket now. It's, everybody's time is pretty crunched now since we lost a judge. You know, we had to reconfigure things. And I operate now in district court, probate court, and circuit court. So there's not one more thing I can take on. And the other judges are kind of maxed out too. They take a lot of time. Just to get yourself trained and set up a court, they would have to travel to other courts because that's part of the requirement if you're going to set up something new. And then, of course, you got to have the money for it, and then where are you going to put it on the docket? So, yeah, we've all talked about it, but at this point, I just don't know where we would put it.
Thank you, Kim. Judge?
And I just want to follow up one thing. Commissioner Lutz asked me earlier this month, I believe, or late last month, our case that you funded for us to file against MDHHS on the 2 children in probate court with the child care fund. He just wanted a little update. Both parties have filed briefs in the matter, and oral arguments are set for October 10th. That's where we're at right now. So.
Thank you. I have a motion. Yes.
Support.
Motion support. Discussion. We've had it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Next up is the Mr. Barson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mead, could you come back?
Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate the, recent trend toward a more user-friendly courthouse. I think we'd all like to see that, and I commend you on the technological advances. Just 2 questions. Do you anticipate, as this rolls out, that there will be a reduction in personnel in the
well, one of the things that I can't tell you that for sure, but what we'll have to do is as we automate things that are currently done at a desk, if I can move them to be working in the lobby collecting the money, I have to keep some personnel to do that. I can tell you since I've been here, Circuit Court has lost, we've reduced 1 clerk, a staff attorney, a judicial secretary, and a half a recorder. And then in district court, they've reduced 2.5 staff positions. So we have, and that's over the last 14 years. So we have continued to reduce as we've automated and done more. And I mean, I probably retire before much of that happens, but I would think the trend would be that we would continue to look at the resources, and when we can make cuts, I think the court has demonstrated that they have.
Well, thank you for that response. On the court dockets that the various judges have, why does that only go back 30 days? Why not longer than that?
The information that the public goes to look at, the system takes the data from our system every hour and captures it and writes it to a server over at NetSource 1 in Saginaw. The public is actually accessing that server. They're not coming into our AS400, and that's for a security reason. You do something like that. That's limited in size. That could be increased and we could maybe do more, but currently that was the way it was written, that it's like an active case plus, I think, 75 days. So it's just a size limitation at this point.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Next is the Bay County 2016 audit. It's your floor, sir.
Thank you. Give me 1 second to switch this over.
Was there a handout, Tom, for that? Is there a handout for, do we have a handout? Do we have printed copies? Does he have?
No, I don't.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Doug Dieter with Raymond, and we did the financial statement audit and single audit for the county this year for the December 31st, 2016 year end. I'm just going to take some high-level review of the financial information within the audit. If there's any questions as I go through this, feel free to interrupt me, and I'd be happy to answer them as we go through. So first of all, we did issue an unmodified opinion on the county's financial statements, and what that means is that's the highest level of assurance the independent auditors can provide. The financial statements are materially correct and conform with generally accepted accounting principles. This slide, it's a little hard to read. I apologize for that. This shows the general fund, the general operating fund for the county, and it shows the assets and liabilities, breaks them out into a pie chart for the fund balance. As you can see there, the total assets for the county at the end of December was the $17,599,000. As you can see, most of that is sitting in the investments. There's a little bit of liabilities of just under $3 million. And then there's fund balance. Total fund balance was $13,976,000. And on this next slide, we'll look at how that fund balance changed from the previous year. The next couple of slides. So this slide looks at the general fund revenue, and again breaks it out into different major categories. And you can see, compares it to budget. So your budget was $30,664,000 and came in at $30,556,000. So really close to what was budgeted. So good job budgeting that. As you can see here, the majority of that revenue is in property taxes, about 53%. And then the next one behind that is the state revenue you get from the state of Michigan at just over $4 million. This one shows the general fund expenditures broken down by the functions. These are the main functions of the county for financial reporting. And again, budget to actual. You can see the total budget was $30,790,000. And actual come in under that at $29,340,000. So about $1.4 million under budget. So you're able to contain costs nicely during the year. As you can see here, the majority of that is in your general government, in your public safety, followed by the courts. So based on those two slides, this one shows you the general fund balance where you had budgeted a decrease of about $1.6 million, and you're actually able to realize an increase of about $421,000. So about a $2 million swing from what you had estimated, and that has to do with the difference between your budget, actual, and revenues and expenditures. So the fund balance went from $13,555,000 to just under $14 million at the end of December 2016. Any questions on that? Okay. These next couple slides are going to look at the two of the larger enterprise funds that the county has. The first one is the medical care facility, and the other one is the delinquent tax collection fund. As you can see there, the total assets in medical care facility were just over $30 million. Most of that sitting in cash and investments and some receivables from the state and patients. And then the tax collection fund had just over $9 million, and that was almost all in cash and investments there as well. So there's a few liabilities here for these two funds. The largest liability you're going to see from medical care is what we call the net OPEB obligation. That's a retiree health care obligation that the medical care facility has, and that's currently at about $13.6 million. The tax collection fund has a smaller one at the $93,000. So certainly.
On that OPEB, you're talking $13 million, but don't they amortize that over 30 years or something?
Correct. It is being amortized. It is, I'd have to double check. It's somewhere between 25 and 30 years. It changes a little bit each year, depending on what's going on.
But yes, that's something that's going to be paid as you go in the future. It's nothing that's due now or anywhere
So
near.
that's a pretty normal cost for most places.
Yes, and we'll look at the funding of that when I get a little further in here. I'll give you a little better idea of where you sit with that. Okay. So the next one are the revenues and expenses for these two funds. The medical care facility had $21.5 million in revenue and had $25 million in expenses. And as you can see there, they're supplemented by tax revenue, so that shows in the non-operating revenue section there. So they ended up with a reduction in their net position of about $1.6 million during the year, bringing their net position down to $17.4 million. The tax collection, on the other hand, had a change in net position of just over $100,000 increase, bringing their net position to $9,007,000. The county offers a retirement for their retirees. And this shows, this is December 31st, 2014 and December 31st, 2015. They run a year behind the county's audit report based on the timing of when the valuations come in from the actuary. So the most recent one is the December 31st, 2015, where it had a total pension liability for the entire county of $232 million. And the county has resources set aside of the $244,698,000. That's called the planned net position. So as of December 31st, 2015, the county had a what we call a net pension asset, or an overfunded pension plan, of about $12.6 million. So the plan was about 105.5% funded. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. The next section looks at the contributions. So every year the actuary does their calculation to figure out what the required contribution is going to be for the county. And that takes into account the amortization of the total liability over that 25-30 year period we're talking about. So for the year on December 31st, 2016, the actuary determined the contribution to be the $1.3 million, and the county actually contributed $1,961,000, so about a $650,000 contribution in excess of what the actuary said was required. Now, keep in mind, these are all just estimates by the actuary. There's a lot of assumptions that go into these calculations. Now, to get to the question you had earlier, this is on the retiree health care. And this is, again, December of 2015, where the county has $12,359,000 set aside in assets. And yet the actuary has determined or calculated the liability to be $67,890,000. So again, that's something that's going to be amortized over many future years. So the plan at December 31st, 2015 was approximately 18% funded. Yes, sir.
Now, how does that liability in was that 13 go from 49 million to 15, 67 million? How does that happen?
A lot of that has to do with how the market does. Let me pull this other sheet out here, and I can give you a little better information.
Increase in healthcare costs? Is that
It can be increase in healthcare costs. It's let's see here. Apologize, 1 second here. The net investment income for this year was $3.5 million, and that plays a lot into what, the expected investment returns, right? And what they expect the market to do. So they're expecting the market to be, I apologize, I got to find the right page here. They're expecting it to earn 5%. So it depends on what they're expecting, and how it does is what happens to that number. That's one of the biggest factors. The other one is the cost of healthcare. They try to make assumptions based on future, what that's going to do. It's going to go up, go down. Obviously, we all know it usually goes up. But that's really the largest difference you're going to see there, with those two factors. Does that help?
Yes, sir, thank you.
So we kind of already touched on these. This goes through the different assets and liabilities for those two trust funds. You can see there, now this is as of December 31st, 2016. So this is as of the current year, where there's total assets in the retirement fund, the employees' retirement system of almost $313 million, and about $46.6 million in the what's called the VIVA Trust. And then this is the what went in and came out of those two funds. So you can see there the employee retirement system had almost $23 million in, I apologize, that's on the wrong line, that's in the net investment income. And then the employer contributed 3.2 and the plan members contributed 2.2 into that plan. And then the current retirees received $17.8 million in retirement benefits during the year. And then the VIVA Trust had net investment income of 3.5 with employer contributions of $369,000, and the deductions of $15,000 are just some admin fees that run through that plan, or that to administer that. We did do a single audit this year, which is a compliance testing of the county's federal awards, as we do every year. And we did issue an unmodified opinion on that as well, which means that there were no compliance issues noted. The federal funds were expended in accordance with the federal award agreements. So that's a good thing. Nice clean audit this year. Your accounting staff has done a nice job to get ready for us and provide us the information we need, so we really appreciate that. Any questions that I can answer for you? Yes, sir.
You might have it in there. If you can't find it, that's fine. What was the impact of healthcare costs in 16 versus 15?
I don't have that. That's actuarial numbers, so we'd have to go back to the actuarial report that you get from your actuary. I apologize. That's something that I can work with Jan and get for you. Sure. Any other questions?
Move to receive.
More discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Next up, City of Bay City, application for Obsolete Property Rehabilitation District and Certificate by Dave Dittenber, 814 Saginaw Street.
Move to receive. Support.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, Sandy Shutt, request for appointment to the Department of Health and Human Services Board of Directors. Motion to receive.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion? Commissioner Creed.
Just a note, we do expect a resume from her coming in before our vote in October, so we get a little better taste of her background.
Sure. Anything else? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next will be reports and resolutions of the committees. Commissioner Lutz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today I bring Resolution 2017-177, which is the Amendment 1 to the OHS grant for increased funding for the drug treatment court. I believe that was $10,500. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2017-178, the elevator repair contract with Otis Elevator for the Sheriff's Department. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2017-179, Office of Highway Safety Planning Grant for the Sheriff's Office. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2017-180, which is the Pinconning Township Road Patrol Services Agreement for the Sheriff's Office. I move that resolution.
Support. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2017-181, the Amendment 1 to the FC 17-09001, Title 5E, or 4E, for the prosecutor's office. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2017-182. It's the RFP for the golf carts for 2018 recreation facilities. I move that resolution.
Support.
Are we going to refer this to the budget?
No, he moved it, I supported it.
Okay. You got it. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, you know, if I was voting on this as part of the budget today, it would absolutely get a no vote from me. There's a lot of questions, I believe, that need to be answered. For one thing, you know, what are our revenues and liabilities at the course? I can get two different answers at this time, you know. I'd like to have something concrete to base my vote on. And as far as, you know, what we're going to need for other equipment out there in the budget, if there's going to be the lawn cutting, I know that there were issues with what we had out there. And I'm not convinced of that we have a fleet of 70 carts out there, and we just bought 20 new ones, and now we're going to go out for bid for another 20, and where the money's going to come from, I don't know. So, you know, I'd like to see it referred to the budget.
Commissioner Cooney?
I don't have a problem with that. This isn't asking for money. This is only asking for an RFP to go out and get the numbers. And we need the numbers in order to make any decision. And those numbers, if we approve it at the budget, it's probably going to be too late by the time they go through the RFP and get the okay and get the carts and get them delivered for April. We need them for April. This is not asking for anything but information. And I think a lot of things should go through the budget process or be a part of, say, 2018's budget. You know, too many things. Yeah, if we have an emergency, then that's what the purpose of budget adjustments are, is to address things that we don't plan on happening. But as that software package last week I spoke on and said, let's, you know, I think we deserve the information, all the information, in order to make a decision. We didn't have that on that software package. We don't have it here till we go out and get the information. So I think they're going to do the due diligence and go out and get the information on what it costs. Maybe it's 15 cards, I don't know, you know. But we can't get it done until we get the information. And then if we want to look at it through the budget process and either approve it or not approve it, that's fine with me. I don't have a problem with that.
Mr. Reddick?
Yeah, the request for proposal for the last 20% out in December. And they had got the bids and award and planned to order them and have them for the new season. And so the price we had in the last 20 are less than a year old, and that's $4,000 a piece.
Yeah. Well, it's still not, you know, I mean, are we going to guess
The
at
one
things? Are we
price
going to
you
guess,
go
or
for
are
a
we
request for quote.
all they're doing is going out and getting information for us. We can address it at the budget process. I don't have a problem with it, but I want the information.
Is there a difference between a request for proposal and request for quote? Are those two different things?
Yeah. When you send out an RFP, you're intending to purchase.
So we're voting on a request for proposal to purchase, basically. So, Mr. Barsha?
I noticed Frances Levine is with us. I don't know if she would want to make a comment or not. Thank you, Frances, if you could.
Hello, everybody. What we would do in order to get a budget number for Kristen is to put out an invitation to bid. We would take the scope that Kristen developed last year, put it together, and release it that way. So we wouldn't go for quote, we would just go for an invitation to bid. That would allow us to have her numbers ready for the budget, and then if this board decides that we want to move forward, we would be ready to go from there. So it's actually an invitation for bid, as opposed to an RFP or an RFQ. I just wanted the information to be
So
reflected correctly.
this is different. So what are we?
No, what we're asking for is to go out and get a quote. We've just changed it from a request for quote. It's following the new policy. It's actually technically called an invitation for bid, an IFB. And I didn't want the record to have the wrong method that we were going to use.
So this is supposed to say IFP.
IFB.
Okay,
We're still following the same process where we're going to take the scope that she developed then,
yes.
drop it in, release it, get our pricing back, and then she can use that for her budget numbers.
So can we amend this to be an IFP? Can we do that, Madam Clerk?
Do anything we want.
Yeah, wow.
Sure.
The same,
I know we can do everything we want.
6
Sure.
of one,
Let's
half
do it
dozen
right.
of another. It's the same concept.
Yeah, I moved that change.
Okay, so we have, it'd be IFP for the golf carts for 2018. Mr. Durancheck.
When we send this out, is it going to go for 20, or are you going to get a per cart? Maybe we can only afford 10 in our budget. How is that going to go out, per unit or as a block of a unit? I'm sure pricing, quantity dictates pricing also.
What we can do, if I may, is we can ask for staggered pricing, quantity of 1 to 100, 100 to 200, however we decide we want to build it. That way we can see where the price breaks fall into. That way it's not an all or nothing type of request.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Barsha.
I was just going to say, I think the reason the emphasis on the carts is to try to keep the attendance up or increase the attendance at the golf course, which will increase revenue. I have talked to Tim Watkins, and yes, Commissioner Coonan, he has several items that exceed $50,000 that he would like to acquire for the golf course. New mowers, some that are 30 years, 40 years old. So almost since the golf course was started. And so if we can keep the attendance up, the golf leagues seem to really appreciate the carts. And if we can keep the attendance up or grow the attendance, that will increase the revenue, correct? Listen, at the golf course. So where do we stand currently in this, so far this season? Do you have any idea?
Yes, I printed our revenues just right before the meeting. We're sitting at just under 400,000 for revenues, and we also just got a balance sheet from the finance department, which I shared with a number of you, but I can share it with the rest of you if you'd like. I sent it out about 5 minutes before the meeting, so you probably didn't have time to review it, but you know, we're having a pretty good season. I think we had better weather last year, and our business is weather dependent and driven. So, but we, you know, I think as I mentioned last meeting, we don't owe the general fund any money, and we're hoping to break even again this year and make a small profit. So, sure.
Commissioner Coonan.
I want the golf course to do well, and I want it to pay its bills. It doesn't have to make a whole lot of money. It'd be nice if it did. But are you looking at this, Kristen? Did you see this?
That's what I.
And I'm looking at 16 because 17's isn't in, and you know we made money barely, but then down here under transfers in was 50,000. Is that the money that we normally the general fund gives to the golf course?
That.
In 16.
That, if I'm remembering correctly, we had to borrow 50,000 in 15. And we did that, and we paid it back in full in 2016. So we had a transfer into the golf course and a transfer out of the golf course.
Okay.
So there, you know, we did borrow money, but we paid it all back.
And then we paid it, well, we borrowed money again in 17.
No, we didn't, there wasn't a need for us to borrow any general fund dollars at the end of 2016. So because we did so well in 16.
And then, you know, another thing, I think, Kristen, and I like the idea of buying carts and getting, and getting rid of 5 and keeping 15. That way, if you were to run the numbers on those 15 that we lease and reduce that from the cost, I think that would be a benefit to us all to see that, we might be buying or paying $4,000 for a cart, but whatever the cost of those 15 to lease all the time should come off that and say, it's really not 4,000, it might be something less, and that might be more palatable to, and if we can show in 17 that, or even in 16, that we had paid our bills, that's great. If we can show in 17 we paid our bills, that's great too. That's good information that everybody can see and see that we should use some capital expenditures in order to improve the course somehow.
So the motion on this is to approve as amended. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is resolution 2017-183, the brick sealant for the test site at the Civic Arena for recreation and facilities. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Commissioner Krieger.
Yep. Kristen, are we doing this in-house or we have an outside contractor coming in?
In-house.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is resolution 2017-184. It's a budget adjustment for the Civic Arena Endowment Fund for recreation and facilities. This is for the skate sharpening machine.
And skate aids.
Support. Move that.
Discussion. Commissioner Krieger.
Yep, just a quick question. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to get to you before this. I'm assuming that there isn't any equipment out there used that we get a better price on that we're buying this new?
We have a very old skate sharpener that doesn't work very well anymore and requires a lot of repairs. So this is a replacement because it's 20 years old at this point.
Right.
And the dollars are coming from the endowment fund.
Okay, so we're replacing it with a new piece of equipment?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is resolution 2017-185. It's the BCTV sponsorship agreements for administrative services. I move that resolution.
Support. Discussion. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is resolution 2017-186, the Shelter Pro software for animal control or administrative services. I move that resolution.
Or
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is resolution 2017-187, memorandum of understanding all about animals rescue for the animal control. I move that resolution.
Support. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is resolution 2017-188, the L 4029 2017 tax request for equalization. I move that resolution.
support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is resolution 2017-189, the amendment number 4 to the CPBG grant agreement for the Health Department. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is item 14, which is 2017-190, the CSHCS program supplemental grant for the Health Department. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is resolution 2017-191. It's the RFQ for the excess workers' compensation policy for the Personnel Department. I move that resolution.
Support. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2017-192, the RFQ for workers' compensation, the TPA from Personnel Department. I move that resolution.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2017-193, the Medicare Advantage Plan renewal from the Personnel Department. I move that resolution.
Support?
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2017-194, it's the payables for General and Center Ridge Arms. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2017-195, the Housing Rehab Grant Extension for Mishta. I move that resolution.
Support. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Next, we have Resolution 2017-196, Community Mental Health Integration from the Bayerneck Behavioral Health. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Raise the meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Lutz. Commissioner Ryder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have Resolution 2017-197, MIDC Compliance Plan, Indigent Arraignment Representation. I will move that resolution forward.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Number 2, we have Resolution 2017-198, Road Patrol Service Agreement for Special Police Protection in Pool Townships. I will move that resolution forward.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Number 3, we have Resolution 2017-199, Agreement for Special Police Protection in Townships of Monitor, Bangor, Portsmouth, and Williams Township, and City of Auburn. I would move that resolution forward.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Number 4, Resolution 2017-200, NEMSCA Agreement. I would move that resolution forward.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
And Resolution 2017-201, Agreement with the Health Management Associates. I would move that resolution forward.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2017-202, Agreement Coordination of BAHSCC. I would move that resolution forward.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2017-203, Business Associates Data Sharing Agreements. I would move that resolution forward.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Finally, we have Resolution 2017-204, Vacancies 911 Central Dispatch, Department on Aging and Equalization Department, and Health Departments too. I'll move that resolution forward.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
That's all we have before you today, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Commissioner Durancheck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution 2017-205, reports of the County Executive, Jim Barsha. Move this forward.
Support. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next, reports of officials and departments. Mr. Executive.
Well, not a lot to report, other than the success of the Paws in the Park event, which was held last Saturday at the fairgrounds, in which we adopted over 50 cats. I think 50 cats. There were 4 that weren't adopted, but they're still have another opportunity to be adopted before euthanization. And I just wanted to say that the program has been very helpful that Mike presented last week with the All About Animals program, which you graciously approved, because that allows these animals to be spayed and neutered and also get their vaccinations. So it makes it so much more affordable for an average family to adopt those pets. Also wanted to inform the commission that very soon, I want to publicly thank Debbie Russell, who has done a tremendous job in chairing a committee on bringing best practices to animal control in Bay County. And want to thank the staff. And in fact, I think today was the last day for Anthony Trevino. Yes. Anthony has been a kennel aide and he's accepted a job. We're at Saginaw Animal Control, but did a great job for us in Bay County. And I'm very grateful to Mike Halstead and his leadership, along with the staff that we have at Animal Control, all of them whom I won't know, but you all know, I won't mention. But especially thank Debbie Russell for her dedicated effort at bringing together some of the leaders of animal welfare policy throughout the region, and chairing, I don't know how many committee meetings, but a number of them. And she has put together a best practices plan for Bay County Animal Control, and the document with recommendations will be provided to all the board members when it's issued, and for your information, for your review, and for any input you would have for the administration. I think we're making great progress, and I'm very grateful to Debbie Russell for her tireless efforts and those of her committee members. But it was her leadership, I think, that brought everybody together and has come up with a plan that I think you'll hopefully be pleased to review, and hopefully it will move Bay County certainly forward into the 21st century regarding animal welfare policy, and especially hopefully reducing animal populations so that we can reduce our euthanasia rate. So with that, I don't have much more to report, but appreciate the commissioners and the support they've given to so many of these resolutions, in the personnel and your committee work prior to today. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any unfinished business? Any new business?
Well,
Commissioner Krieger.
actually, it's more miscellaneous.
Okay, we'll say miscellaneous.
All right. So, under miscellaneous, if I could ask Debbie Russell if maybe we could consider the pause in the park was such a success that maybe we could look at doing it in the spring and then at the later part of summer. And
that'd be great. I mean, everybody is behind it 100%, including the community and the Humane Society and all the rescues are willing. I mean, they did work extremely hard. It was apparently a very hectic Saturday over there.
We had
but
gorgeous weather.
The end result is worth it. So yes, absolutely. And also we do have that Empty the Shelters Day that is kind of a comparable event. But yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
And the other, under miscellaneous, last night we had a meeting out at Delta College in the auditorium to talk about the issues at Bay City State Recreation Area and how having a name change is changing some of the designation of areas that weren't allowed to be hunted to now having the ability to hunt there. It was pretty well attended. Mr. Barsha was there, as well as Representative Brian Elder. And a little disappointing on the information that the DNR wanted to share and how they've gone about doing it. I think they're their own worst enemy in trying to get their message out. But there was great participation. I don't think I heard anyone in support of the changes. And it is going to their committee in Lansing, I believe, tomorrow afternoon. So I'm not quite sure what's going to happen, but residents up at Killarney Beach area obviously have some concerns on the boundaries in the safe shooting zones and how wide it is. So maybe, Jim, if you want to...
Yeah, if I could just add, Ernie and I and Brian Elder were in attendance, and I think the DNR did make some significant modifications in terms of where the hunting will occur, but it still is I don't think enough to satisfy the concerns for public safety of the residents as well as some of the folks who use the rail trails.
Yeah, and I might add too, Jim, you know, we're, in talking with Commissioner Ryder, we're only talking about a 2-week span where certain hunting would be allowed in that area, but it only takes one accident that would turn things upside down. And again, in that 2-week period, the DNR have the option of not allowing these individuals or individual to hunt in that specific area. So though it's a narrow window, if there should be an incident, it would not be good.
Yeah, I think, Commissioner Krieger, that if the DNR probably hadn't issued the Wear Blaze Orange, if you're going to use the rail trail, that was kind of a red flag to the community. Secondly, if it could be limited to archery from elevated stands, I think some of the concerns about stray bullets and the range of the ballistics and the bullets have people concerned that they may have projectiles hitting their homes or accidentally hitting, you know, individuals. And as I mentioned at State Park at our first meeting, you know, I've been a lifelong hunter. I'm very pro hunting, and still looking forward to the archery season here on October 1st, opening day. I won't be able to hunt this fall, I don't think, as much as I have the last few years.
However, and now you have a job.
I know. However, just to let you know that anything can happen. As I mentioned at State Park, my cousin in 1998, he was 30 years old, salesman at McIntosh, but it was before that, Roger McIntosh Auto Dealership. It was opening day of rifle season. I was hunting up in the Upper Peninsula. Got a call from my dad that night. My cousin had borrowed a rifle from him, hunting in the Deadstream Swamp with two of his friends from Bay City. And it got turned around in the dark about an hour before daylight on November 15th, 1998. And it had snowed, it was very cold, so he made the mistake of getting turned around. He thought we're assuming he probably was going to find his bearings again when daylight hit, and then try to find the little seat that he had set under a pine tree. But what happened is he took off his blaze orange vest, put it on a down tree, and so not to get his seat wet because it snowed and was very cold. And at about 7:15, a rifle shot rang out, and he stood up. Apparently, it was a bucks-only area, so it had to have legal antlers, and probably anticipating that a buck might be coming his way if the shooter missed. But at 32 yards, he was shot in the right eye, 107 feet, by a sergeant with the Saginaw Police Department who also taught firearms safety at Delta College. So accidents can happen, and I think it's those that they're very rare. They're very, very rare. But the family was very gracious to him, did not insist on prosecution because he was harder on himself than the courts probably would have been. And it was truly an accident. But things can happen even at very close range, even with people who work daily with firearms, and also, as an aside, actually teach firearm safety to other hunters. So I understand the anguish of your constituents and my constituents who border that recreational area.
Yep.
We want it to be as safe as possible, but accidents can happen. But I commend the DNR for modifying that plan significantly to reduce that type of thing from happening.
You can give them accolades. I want to say one more thing under miscellaneous about the DNR. It's unfortunate that they've not seen the light in how valuable our shoreline is. And with the amount of money and time that they've spent to try to put this program together, they still have not applied for a permit from the Army Corps of Engineers to give us our additional shoreline where the boardwalk is at. They still have not addressed the deed restrictions on 2 parcels of land that they allowed the Corps of Engineers to put on without a public notice. So I'm still gonna hold their feet to the fire. And, you know, their attendance is up this summer, and the reason for it isn't because the weather's been great. They've got a boardwalk and they have a beach that they've been able to maintain with the equipment that we bought with beach wellness money. So they need to get with the program and spend some more time in looking on just what the park has to offer besides expanding the hunting zones.
One final comment, I promise. I want to again reiterate, as I have in the past, our appreciation to Commissioner Krieger, Commissioner Coonan, and Laura Ogar, and the rest of the staff, the full commission.
And also Bob Redmond's been
And Bob Redmond, of course, I was just getting to Bob.
He keeps me from getting thrown in jail, so it's important that he's.
Beach Wellness has seen absolutely phenomenal success in raising the awareness of the public about the Bay City State Park and bringing the necessary public support, I think, for state government, our area state legislators, to realize what a valuable resource that is, both as a destination from people from throughout the region, hopefully from out of state. I think I mentioned to you one time, Commissioner Krieger, that we used to camp out there at the Bay City State Park when I was in the 8th and 9th grade. My parents were kind of naive, I guess, at that point, to let us stay there for a week in a little camper. But the people adjacent to our campsite were from Canada. They came all the way from Canada to camp at the Bay City State Park.
And back then, remember in the 60s, if you wanted to meet women, that was the place to go. And you stayed there for a week, oh boy.
But I do want to commend everyone who's worked so diligently on bringing it to the point that it's at. We still, I think, need to enlighten the Natural Resources Commission about just precisely the point you made, that we hope and expect additional support and future support and financial resources to bring that Bay City State Park to what it should be, because it can have a tremendous impact on the economy locally, for recreation, for the purchases that are made at our local businesses, and also the enjoyment of our Bay County residents who may not stay there. And I think every weekend, I think Mr. Loringer told me, every weekend except for the flooding event in June, that the camping campsites were sold out just about every weekend this summer. And that's a real tribute to all of you, Mr. Redmond, Mr. Krieger, Mr. Coonan, the entire commission, and also Director Ogar, for your diligence and your perseverance over the last 15 or 20 years, not giving up, just forging ahead and continuing to press the powers that be to recognize what needs to be done there.
Okay. And so, Mr. Chair, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, are you done?
Thank you.
That's okay. I got one more under miscellaneous, and we got it, and all of us got this, but just in case, I think the folks at home should know that we made a significant contribution to the Bay City Public Schools, their after meal program during the summer. It started 9 weeks ago, and so we got this little bit of information. And so there is different sites. You could eat at the Y, you could eat at McGregor School, all over the county. But they served 12,700 breakfasts to kids who showed up, and just if your kid was there, he got a breakfast. They served 25,700 lunches and 4,000 snacks. So part of that was due to the county in general, helping them out, but the public schools put it on. So that was a nice little letter we got from, and I'm glad we could help all those kids out during the summertime. It's 9 weeks. 9 weeks, we know kids, at least they showed up there, they got something to eat. So that was a good thing. And that's what I have. Any other miscellaneous? Any announcements?
A short one. I just want to remind everybody that Friday is our Fall County Blood Drive at the Allison Jackworth Public Library from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Send your friends, your family, or come yourself.
Debbie Russell is out for blood.
Yes, I am. That's it.
Anybody else? 2017 appointments. In October, we have the Land Bank Authority, one local unit of government representative for a 3-year term. We also have the Department of Health and Human Services Board of Directors, 1 3-year term. And in December, we have the Department of Aging Advisory Committee, 4 2-year terms in districts 1, 3, 5, and 7. Do we need a closed session now?
We do not.
Motion to adjourn is always in order.
Support. All in favor?